All right, that sound can only mean one thing. It is time for the John Riggins Show. I'm Todd Castleberry along with Dexter Manley. It is early in October. Fall is here.
Dexter.
Hello, John.
Good afternoon.
Good.
How you doing?
Better than good, better than most.
All right, I'm going to quit asking you how you're doing because that's what you told me the last 3 times straight in a row. I don't know where exactly to pick things up. There's a lot of things going on, obviously. We'll obviously get to the team. But I did want to ask Dexter something because I'm always fascinated with people and finding new things out about them. And something dawned on me today. See, I spent, as you all know, I think by now, we covered it on Friday. I had some work to do around the house where we were taking out a wall, manual labor, had a bobcat over there, shovels, digging, and all that stuff. I got to know, Dex, when you was growing up, or let me ask it a different way, what's the toughest, nastiest, dirty job that you've ever had?
I tell you, the nastiest, dirty job. When Jimmy Johnson came on board, he got players' jobs.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah. He got me a job, laying pipe in the ground in Oklahoma somewhere, and my job was to dig this hole, and then some other guy's gonna come lay the pipe, and I wanted to leave at lunch hour. Matter of fact, I eventually quit. I quit because you had to hit a hole, dig this, and I quit. And the next job he got me was on a roofing job.
Oh. No.
Yeah.
It'd be a little warm in Oklahoma.
It was hot, and I stayed up on the roof. I never got on the roof. I just took the shingles and dropped them off. But I wasn't finna get on top of the roof.
Well, in other words, you take them out of the truck and drop them here, and then somebody else would run them up the ladder up to the roof?
I'd run them up the ladder.
You'd walk the ladder?
Not all the way to the top because I'm a little afraid of heights. But then another guy on top of the roof, he takes it, and then he do this shingling stuff.
But those were those were two. Let me ask you this: the digging job, you gave that up very quickly. Was this all in the same summer? I'm guessing.
All in the same summer. Yeah, I quit one job, then turned around, had another job.
So what'd you do? Would you go back and tell Jimmy, I ain't digging no holes for nobody? Is that what you told him?
Coach, you want an extra sack this upcoming season?
I don't do this because I figured as much. I'll bet you Dexter's hands have never been calloused. Unless it was from putting them in the dirt. That's the only way. When you was growing up as a kid, was there any jobs you had around the neighborhood or anything?
No job. Well, yeah, I had
besides carrying out the trash.
Yeah, no. I used to throw the paper. I had to get up early in the morning. I only did that maybe for about 3 or 4 days. My dad got tired of that because he had to throw the papers with me because I had a car.
So you quit that one too?
Yeah, quit that one too.
I detect the theme here, Dex.
How about you, Todd? Did you ever have a job?
Yeah.
Okay, name me something that was pretty taxing.
Golf course maintenance. I cut the grass, cut the rough, build the sand traps.
Okay. All right. That's decent. That counts. And I take it that's one of those jobs where you're in there at 0600, right? First thing in the morning, maybe 500. As soon as it's daylight, you got to be working.
On the weekends, 0400.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to get there before the
you got to
big crowd
cut
of
the
people.
cups and do all that stuff.
Okay. So, well, the reason I bring it up is because, that's what I did as a kid growing up, whether it was working for my dad. He had a little piece of ground. We'd be digging post holes, do whatever, cutting weeds, hoeing thistles, that kind of stuff. And from that, we graduated to putting up hay and all this other stuff. But I'm always curious to know, who's actually been out there on the job and really did stuff that you go, okay, all right, you've paid your dues, so to speak. Because there is, like I said, you kind of got to pass through grade school. Now, because I thought to myself, I'm thinking, Dexter, what would he do in the hood? Where you would have manual labor, where you would be coming home, and I don't know, but I guess there obviously would be jobs out there, I suppose. But
one of my jobs was not to get shot or get stabbed.
That's why you're so fast. Dexter developed the ability to outrun bullets, just like you see in the cartoon.
It's a skill.
Speaking of dodging bullets, that did not happen yesterday. And not that I thought it would. Now.
Yeah.
By the way, who's Washington play this coming week?
The Rams.
The Los Angeles
Rams.
Rams.
You taking Washington again? You think it'll been a big upset? We got all week to play with this, but because you were so staunch last week against Baltimore.
I'm going to go with the Rams this week.
Oh, how quickly he turns. Only 4 games into it.
And that's another thing we got to talk about. man, this NFC East race is a tight one. I do not ever remember. I mean, there is a log jam. I mean, the separation, the degree of separation. Well, I guess there's Washington now, instead of being tied with Dallas, is now tied with Philly. No, Philly's actually got the
has
edge.
a lead because Philly had the big tie against Cincinnati.
Exactly, the tie against Cincinnati. So actually, it is. Philly's got the lead by half a game, I guess.
That's a pretty
right?
sizable lead.
And what's really interesting is that Washington beat the team that's now number one.
They beat the man.
Yeah, and then, of course, Dallas is in there at number 2.
Oh, yeah.
But they're 1-3, but they fall. But that's why I'm saying it's so tight. But the Giants are within striking distance at 0-4. It's incredible.
Didn't it go by points? Like if you're tied, doesn't it go by who scored the most points?
Eventually, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I forget, Dexter, what the exact tie-breaking process is. But I think it starts with, I don't know why I'm going to get into it, but it has something to do with divisional losses, and then it gets into conference losses, and it gets into points. In the end, it's points differential. I think.
We can only hope that it devolves into that. After 4 games, the NFC East is a combined 3-12-1. Since the AFL and NFL merged in 1970, there have been 344 divisional races. Philly's tie saved them from the NFC East being the worst in NFL history through 4 games. In history.
That is, I mean, I wouldn't have seen that coming this year. I would have thought Dallas, and I would have thought Philadelphia. I think that everybody would have given. You got first-year coaches in New York and here in Washington, so you'd have thought, well, and things, new quarterbacks and all that stuff. I could understand that, that you wouldn't think that they would be up there. But at the same time, Washington is playing so strongly right now that I think there's a good chance that they can really do something before the season's over with.
Todd, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Of course, I wasn't around here, but you guys talking about people was in place, Philadelphia, the Giants, the Redskins. Why do they call the Redskins the over-the-hill gang? Was that because they wasn't winning?
They were so old.
Yeah, George Allen brought in a bunch of veterans that he was familiar with, and the guys, they were ancient by NFL standards.
Most of them were 30 years old.
30 years old and more.
He bought, I forget, it was something like 6 or 7 guys from the L.A. Rams back then.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember all their names.
With Dyron Talbert and some of those guys.
Marion Patios.
Were you here then, John?
No. Talbert was still on the team when I got here, but I can't remember.
Myron Patios,
there's quite a few others, but I can't remember who they are.
So that's why they call him the over-the-hill gang, because he wanted experienced and
that was his theory.
He
felt like that rookies would make mistakes that would cost him games, I believe. But you have to remember that he had a very, very unusual take on the game. In my opinion, and I don't know. I mean, I only played 2 years, and then his contract wasn't renewed. And one of his players that he brought, Pardee, was another one. Jack Pardee came from the Rams. He became the head coach in 1978. So I played 76 and 77. But I always got the feeling with Coach Allen, his pride and joy, the only part of the team that mattered was defense. That was it. The offense, he was so uninterested in offense. And it's weird because in a weird sort of way, he had a fair amount of success doing it that way, to the point where really, I mean, Larry Brown was such an anomaly in a lot of ways, because that actually was okay. You're running the football. I can live with that. I'm speaking on behalf of George Allen, right? The late George Allen, and the way he was seeing things. Because you're wearing out the clock, and because throwing the football made him nervous, because you could obviously, Darrell Royal, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad if you throw the football. So that was probably embedded in his mind. But I tell people jokingly that his hierarchy was defense, and then special teams, and then I think it was the Leukemia Foundation and a couple other charities, and then the offense was down here. In fact, they may not have been in the top 10. I'm not sure, but he had a fair amount of success doing things that way, and that's you go back to the over the hill gang. That's exactly what he would do. He didn't want a rookie to make a mistake, and he was so famous. And I don't know, the press down here, they had a weird relationship, because Washington his teams to watch were really quite boring.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, people, it was such an anomaly. They were winning, but it wasn't any fun.
Listen.
Oh, they were winning?
Listen,
They
Coach,
would win, yeah.
Coach George, man, come on, he gets you fired up, man. You'd run through a wall for this guy. He knew he was a good salesman.
So
That's the part. Go ahead, Dexter.
I'm under the impression that the Over the Hill gang, they didn't win, but you guys were talking about statistics, the NFC, the Giants, the Redskins, and it's a bad division. So my thinking was they was bad back then.
No.
Oh, okay.
Washington historically was a very bad football team, starting in 1940, which was, I think, one of the years that they won the championship. I think because in 1983, that was the first championship they'd won since, I think, 1940. Mm-hmm. But to go back to answer your question, yeah, no, they actually the second year here, I think did they go 12-2 in 1972 and went on to the Super Bowl?
That sounds right, Riggo.
12-2.
That sounds right.
It's either that or 11-3, but they had a really good record, and it was all because of Larry Brown. Because at least Larry, I mean, he kept defenses honest. They could do some play action. They could score a few points. But you know, Coach Allen's idea of the perfect game, I'm guessing, would have been 2-0.
The
You know,
Diesel,
the
you're
defense.
good.
You would have loved playing for him.
You're good, the Diesel.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just telling you,
yeah,
though,
yeah.
that you would have loved playing for Coach Allen.
Really?
Oh, I mean, in other words, you don't remember, he's the guy that had Deacon Jones out in L.A. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could rush the passer as you could like Deacon. I mean, I think Deacon sat pretty high in the Allen family hierarchy.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
He did. Yeah,
The head slap, and
Yeah,
Deacon got
he
it
was
done.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, back in the 70s and all that, like I said, it was such kind of a paradox because people they want in the press, you know, the press. And Allen were definitely at each other's throats. He couldn't stand the press, and the press really didn't like
His
him.
paranoia was off the charts.
Who was the father?
Yes.
But you said, and this is what I have to believe. I don't know how many guys on offense. Maybe there were a lot, but like you said, he was a salesman. I got to be honest with you. I never bought in, but then I'm like, remember I told you about the steer that everybody's down there feeding at the trough? I knew. Guys, no matter what he says, you're not family. We're not family. You know, as soon as you get a bum leg or whatever, I'm going to tell you something. You are going down the river to St. Joe at the stockyard. You know what I'm
Old
talking about?
Yeller's going to get you.
My question, but when you came from the Jets, was he here?
Yes, he was. That's what I'm saying. I came down.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you'd ask me, well, wait a second, because I was a free agent, and I interviewed, or whatever you want to say, with New Orleans, Hank Stram. I can see his name or his face. He coached the L.A. Rams after
Chuck Knox?
Chuck Knox. Hey, way
Well,
to go,
I'm good.
Dex.
Dexter with the
Excellent.
ball.
And then Bud Grant in Minnesota.
Well, I don't see you
Bum
and Bud.
Phillips.
I don't see you and Bud.
Bub
get-
Phillips. Well,
you
they
and-
had
you and-
Buddy Ryan was there. And so Buddy, you know,
Good fumble, but he recovered it.
a little bit, yeah. I mean, it was a fumble, but not a lost fumble. Thank you, Dex. And then I bummed Phillips down in Houston, and then in Washington. There were 5 teams.
Huh.
Now you might ask yourself, and I came here and I looked at stuff, and you know, it's a very quick answer. And you go, well, you must have known, kind of looking at the film, because you know one of the things I did is sat down with one of the. I don't know if it was. I think it was the offensive coordinator. I mean, Charlie Waller, and we looked at some of the film of the offense. And it's the only place I did it was here. And, you know, you could see that this was a tailback-oriented offense. Mm-hmm. Of course, I was playing fullback. But I just kind of... Because you know what, Dex, you know what I got down to?
What?
Money! What else could it have gotten down to? I mean, I went around and knocked on a few other doors, and they was going, well...
Fullbacks don't make halfback money.
Well, yeah, they did back then.
Did they?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in other words, it got down. I'm guaranteeing you Franco Harris is doing all right. But you know what I told you last? Did I tell you? I said that, didn't I, last Thursday when or
You
last
talked
Friday?
about fullback, halfback.
And talking about how of all the 10,000-yard rushers, only
Right.
3 of them actually were guys that, you know, lined up behind the quarterback. And
Jim
that was
Brown?
Jim Brown, Franco Harris, and me. So that tells you a little bit. So, you know, you got to figure Big Jim was probably making a pretty good amount of money when he played. And Franco, I'm sure, was doing okay in Pittsburgh. But the funky white boy, well, I don't know. I mean, I just had to kind of, you know. But, you know, so and let me tell you something. That was a painful 2 years down here. I mean, it was humiliating to have to be the blocking back. That wasn't exactly what I came down here for. Yeah. That had been like, I don't know, could you have played defensive tackle?
No way.
I mean, what if they'd have told you, though, you're a defensive tackle now?
Oh, I couldn't play it.
Oh, you don't think
Too small.
You think you'd have got
Too
hammered?
small,
in
and
there?
in my mind, I'd be thinking the guard coming, the center coming. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it would have been something you wouldn't have relished.
What if they back you up and say, "Hey, you're an outside linebacker now"?
I could deal with that.
Okay.
You could handle that.
I could
Yeah,
handle
but
that.
I go back to your college career when you was the nose tackle, when you was the nose man. I mean, you know what's weird is there wasn't that many years before you, there was a really famous college guy by the name of Granville Riggins. You might not remember him. He's probably about 12, 15 years older than you. He was about 5 years older than me. But he played at the University of Oklahoma, and I mean, the guy was so quick, nobody could block him, and that's how he survived.
Yeah.
And I suppose at the pro level, though, that's a whole nother ballgame, because you're right. I mean, you see anybody that got a nose guard nowadays, I mean, they're what, 350?
350.
that's
They're
a lot of
gorillas.
beef. That's
They're
a lot of
gorillas.
Yeah, they're huge. There's no doubt about it.
Well,
Anyway, go ahead.
Speaking of the over the hill game, because I think it might be fair to say right now we've got the younger gang that can't shoot straight right now on both sides of the football.
So you're saying they're over the hill?
No, I'm saying
They're a gang,
young,
but there's
they're-
another. Do you remember Don Knotts? Do you ever watch Andy of Mayberry?
I used to like when I was a kid.
Remember
I
Don
did.
Knotts, Barney?
Yeah, Barney.
Well,
yeah.
he did a movie, and it was called "The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight" with Tim Conway, I think, was in
Yes,
it as well.
very
And
funny.
basically, they were a gang of outlaws.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. They never robbed anything. They never could get it right.
No, they tried.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
tried.
yeah.
But yeah, with this football team, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step
back.
1 step backwards. What are your thoughts on the game?
Okay, let's start the obvious place because that's where all the talk was last week. Number 7. Like I said, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a student of the game. Never really was. I mean, I understand most of the stuff. I understand football. I can explain to somebody. But for me, it just seemed like it. And I wouldn't normally notice something like this, Dexter. But I thought that, and I guess it would be Turner,
play caller.
Scott Turner, right? That he really simplified the offense and made it very, in other words, there were so many screens that were thrown. I will say, though, they were effective.
Screens,
because a lot of
slants.
them were, some of them weren't. And, the quick slant and all this stuff. And I got to admit, there were a few times number 7 made some nice throws, but I thought that they're playing so conservatively. I thought a couple things. One, stats look good when you throw a lot of screens, a lot of completions, so your percentages go up. And also, so this plays into building somebody's confidence, I guess, if that's what you buy into. But I mean, down deep, you have to know that this isn't, if you keep, that you're not going to be able to run a game plan like that every week and think you're going to win against somebody. Particularly, I was surprised that the Ravens' defense was so poor. I thought they had a much better defense than that, just because they're the Ravens, and you think of Ravens, you think of defense, you don't think of offense. And quite frankly, their offense didn't show a whole lot either. There was moments where they had a little bit of flash. So I don't think they were quite as good a team as I thought perhaps they would be, particularly coming off a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs and just getting their butts hammered, the week before. But so I thought there was a little bit of, little brother-in-law, if you will, kind of looking out for number 7 so he wouldn't do anything to kind of set the cause backwards. And I think that, that because of Coach Rivera, who had to kind of change in the middle of the week and say, well, there is a time that I'll have to pull him out of the game. And I actually thought that we were going to see Kyle Allen at one point in the second half. I kind of thought, here's an opportunity. I can't remember if it was halfway through the third quarter. I forget which drive, after the defense held and they got the ball back. I thought, give this other guy a shot. And I don't know what the danger in that would be unless, you just got it in your mind that we're going to force this until it's so obvious to everybody that this guy just isn't going to be able to get it done. And then you get into that, well, what if Kyle Allen, catches fire? And actually, you start winning and think,
Heaven forbid. Is that why we're here?
I mean, that's where it leaves me kind of like, well, okay. I thought the defense, they did well at times. They did, but at the same time, there were moments there where you would think with the guys they got, now a couple guys that are out, but I didn't think they were all that staunch on the run, really.
No,
I mean,
they weren't. They weren't.
I mean, and that throws, like I said, they did it momentarily. They gave it the big touchdown run to Jackson, but overall, go ahead.
What I find is that the Ravens, they kept moving the chain. defense couldn't get off the field.
Again, big downs where they need to stop them.
Right.
They haven't done it all season long through 4 games.
Yeah.
The defense is supposed to be the strength of this. The amount they've given up
you'd think.
31, I believe it's 31.6 or 2 points over the last 3 games. So they're not stopping folks.
And they're not scoring no more than 20 points per game. They haven't scored 20 points in the last 4 games.
And a lot of that comes, when they really are kind of the other team's playing kind of soft and just kind of playing the clock out a little bit. They give up a point. They may give up a touchdown here, a touchdown. Special teams, they've got nothing return. They're not getting any returns. Of course, on a kickoff return nowadays, there really is no such thing as a.
Right.
But punts. I'm not talking about the punter. I'm talking about actually, punt returns, very average. I think that the field goal kicker, I think that, there's obviously missed field goal. It was out there a little bit a ways, but I think in the past he's hit those before.
But he's a good field goal kicker.
Exactly. His reputation is, but you never know. Hopkins, yeah.
Hopkins.
And then Way, he's one of the best punters in the league. So, you got that aspect going, but there's still something lacking, and you don't really at this point know what it is, my opinion.
Well, as we talk about the NFC East and what a shambles it is through 4 games at record-setting levels. So if this team is going to show us anything, if they're going to step up here,
rise from the ashes.
You've got the LA Rams at home, but then here's Murderers Row at the New York Giants, home against the Cowboys. Where's this? And then you got at the New York, or they play New York again. Then Detroit, who's nothing. It's Cincinnati. They've got nothing. So this is the part of the schedule that you are heading into. When you said last week.
But the Washington football team has nothing. So what is it?
You're going to find out.
Buddy, what was his name? Buddy Miles? Out. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing? Come on, Todd. You're the DJ. Do you remember him, the drummer? Nothing from nothing Billy Preston?
Billy Preston.
Nothing from nothing.
God, you're good.
Nothing
You're good, Todd.
Billy Preston.
Yeah, so that's what we're dealing with.
So
that might have to be our exit song today. Maybe you can kind of get that in.
It could be. And one other thing.
But not that we're getting ready to go anywhere.
So, what do you guys think about this with what's happening with COVID and think about tonight's the competitive balance and the shift at it? Cam Newton, you had the biggest matchup to date, New England versus Kansas City, as we tape this on Monday, and the star quarterback's not playing. And other teams just think about the competitive balance now of what's going on in the league here.
You know what? For me, Dex, I kind of I want to say. Somehow I just started to get a little bit, cavalier about this COVID-19 as far as the NFL goes, because it seemed like, wow, they're pulling this thing off. Everything, and then all of a sudden, was it last week when
there were a lot of false positives.
This big rash of people now that started to test positive. So all of a sudden, you're seeing where the league is really have to bend and stretch and try to do whatever they can to keep things, keep a competitive balance to where. You could look at it, and I've wondered if you have to actually games, or, like in baseball, where they are not, rainouts, and they don't get played. I guess it just basically goes on what was the your record percentage would have to be the way they determine who's going to get in the playoffs and who doesn't. Because I'm not sure that they're going to be able to work this out if anything gets worse to where they actually have to because they've postponed one of the games that was supposed to be played.
That's New England. New England and the Chiefs.
But there's one that's actually
they moved
the Tennessee
Steelers at Titans was that's moved to Week 7, October 25th.
Okay.
Well, they finished the season, the NFL.
I tell you, I stated at the very beginning of this, and I bet a number of people, and I said after 4 weeks, I thought this would have happened after 2 weeks where we are today, but you're finally seeing it now. That enough people are testing positive, it's impacting the ability to play these games.
It's day to day, because then today I read, Dexter, that I think they're talking about putting an 18th week into the season. That's, in other words, then that one might cover all the games that have had to been postponed, which it's fluid. There's no other way around it. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's nobody breathing easy. I'm sure that thinking that this season's just going to go off and everything's going to fall into place. There's just too many unpredictable things going on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the early line against the Rams is the LA Rams giving 9.5. So, Vegas had the Skins giving up 13 to the Ravens. And that's
So
cool.
they must still figure in home field advantage to a certain extent. Travel, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
the only thing.
yeah, you're right.
Being off your feet a little bit.
You're right.
Because certainly there's not going to be, obviously there's no crowd to factor in.
All right, Riggo, when we last left off, and actually, you had that show called Riggo on the Range, and this is all adding up now because you're bringing the range
Me.
to Cabin John.
Yeah, it's like my wife says, before he's done, he's going to have a little farm here in the backyard.
Now, first off, did Rocky Raccoon, did we have a Rocky sighting?
Rocky has not showed his grizzly little face, so I don't know. That electric fence might have taught him a lesson. And it's we're getting late into the year now where if he's coming, but he will, it'll be damning if he does because I just reseeded my lawn. It's just starting to come up. This would be all out, and I will be back on night watch. I mean,
He might have brought reinforcements with him. He's probably like enough
Will
of this.
Coco be there on night watch with you?
No. That's not for kids. What I got to do. It's strictly covert operation.
His ordinances are.
I'm actually surprised I've let this much information out and shared it with the public. But now this will be it will end up as a wet operation. I'm pretty sure. But
He's
that
got a
has
special set of skills. Riggo goes Liam Neeson.
exactly.
Yeah.
Not really. Actually, Rocky's the one with the special set of skills. Not me.
He's going. I can't believe this guy. It's 3 years in a row.
Exactly.
That's all he's got.
This guy's a pushover. I'm telling you, he's a punk. I got chunks of guys like him in my stool. That's what Rocky's thinking.
Yeah, okay.
But guess what?
What?
That's what Sunup was thinking, or as he's known in the area, the Riverside Rooster. He's actually got a name now.
That's a beautiful rooster for the audience to see there.
He's been on YouTube, so last time he says, "Hey, punk, I'm a star. Get away from me."
He's got an agent now.
Get your hands
deal.
off of me. Yeah. It's pretty funny because since we talked about this, up until Saturday afternoon, there was 24 hours. I didn't get anything done. I mean, it was 24 hours with Coco trying to figure out how we're going to round up the Riverside Rooster. Yeah, I mean, it was Sunup was, and we'd go out and I got some bamboo growing around there, and I had a couple of the stalks that were probably 8 feet long. It still had the leaves on it, and I'm doing this, and we're herding him and doing all that, and I thought we kind of had him there for a second. And so he starts flying. He flaps his wings and he gets up about 6-7 feet. And I got one of those bamboo shoots that I've got. And
Yeah.
it was like he looked like John Riggins. He just broke my tackle. He went right through it and he landed in the bamboo. And the bamboo's growing about 6 inches apart. I'm going, I don't even know how he's getting around in there because I started in, went whoop, he got away. So he was a fugitive for 24 hours. Now. This is what got interesting. Coco and I we'd always go out about every hour. Coco, what do you think? Is he back? So we were, we'd go out and we'd listen and see where he was. And then all of a sudden we'd spot him and then we'd start again. Well, let's try this. He was just too elusive. So we figured, okay, let's just wait till sundown. And we did. And so we go outside and we hear, and we're going, okay, we know where he is. So now we wait a little bit longer. We get out there about 10 o'clock on Friday night with flashlights. Because now we're figuring he's roosting in here somewhere. We wanted to locate where he was. And maybe if he was low enough on a low enough branch, I might be able to grab him and take. Because the only reason we're going to do this was to protect him from himself and what he didn't know. I live, and Rocky's there to testify, in a tough neighborhood if you're a chicken. I mean, other than that, the neighborhood itself is fine. But if you're a chicken or a squirrel, this is a tough neighborhood. There's all kinds of foxes around there that come through there. You see them during the day. I've seen them at night when I was on night watch for Rocky.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What's the bamboo?
The bamboo stuff that grows. It grows like in Southeast Asia that just goes
Grows
nuts.
like wildfire. He's got that all along the perimeter there.
Yeah, you've been by my house. I mean, next time you're over, I'll show you. I'll show you, tell you what it is. But anyway, they make fishing poles out of bamboo. They make all kinds of things out of bamboo nowadays. I mean, old fly rods used to be made out of it. Like I said, fishing poles. So there's quite a few things. But anyway, so what we did, I got to thinking, well, how did he end up here? Well, according to what I was told, was the fellow that came over to do some work for me, he left his truck door open, and Sunup was actually Curious George with feathers, so he just hops into the truck, and the guy he's driving down the road. Next thing, damn, we got a rooster in here. That's what I told you on Friday. He's telling me, hey, you want to see a rooster? And I went, oh, what, a dog named Rooster? He said, no, So
all Riggo
after a
needed to
while,
hear.
about 1 or 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, I said, Coco, you know what? Let's try something here. Because there's a little, on the other side of the road where my driveway is, there's a little parking lot. I said, I'm going to back the truck, because that's where the truck was parked when the guy did the work. He left his truck there. I said, let's try this. I pulled my truck in there, backed it in, opened the driver's side door. And Coco and I sat there for probably 10 or 15 minutes, and he was right around in there, wandering around. And finally I went, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting nothing done with this rooster on the lamb. This is like stupid. I said, I've got some stuff. I got to go text my other daughter and see, because her car wasn't going to start. And I said, well, Coco, I said, I'm going to go inside for a little bit. I got to look at my cell phone and, answer some phone calls and do all that stuff. So, do whatever you got to do. So I go inside. I ain't in there 5 minutes. Coco comes and says, he's in the truck. He jumped in the truck. I said, well, did you close the door? She goes, no.
No, he drove away.
I didn't leave the keys in. Yeah, I think he would have. So we go back outside there, and I said, well, go ahead and close the door. And before I could say that, Coco just goes, woo, and I thought, oh, God, if Sunup was just ready to exit, and now he's going to join us for Sunday dinner.
Chicken tenders.
Yeah, it is. He's going to be chicken tender. Fortunately, he stayed where he was. So we actually captured him, and he's been in the garage all weekend. And so yesterday, I contacted the guy who actually, brought him to our shores, and I said, I think I'll be bringing him back, which had full intention. Well, now try and convince your soon-to-be 16-year-old daughter that going to take, this magnificent. He really is a pretty bird, I got to say.
What is the wife saying about this?
Well, that's another good question, Dex.
What is the wife
question.
saying?
Well, see, she's kind of like, because I said personally this. I told this to Coco right before I came over. I said, Coco, look, from where I am, I said we got a couple ways we can do this. I said, one, we return him to where he came from, because he's got 5 brothers out there. The guy's got 5 other roosters, I think, out of the same hatch. So it's like he's just going to go. In fact, we take him back out there, and they let him mix up, and then Coco and I are going to go, which one's Sunup? I don't know.
Right.
You got 1 out of 6 chances. Yeah. But yeah, that was possibility. Take him, which I think ultimately is going to happen, because I said the other one, Coco, is this. We just turn him loose to let him do his own devices. He knows where food is. We've been feeding him a little bit. Maybe he kind of thinks this is home at night. He's going to have to get up in a tree. I mean, to me, and even my wife is like, she's going, well, that's not they almost are positive that he won't last a week out in the wild, that the foxes or Rocky will end up, having a real nice snack at his expense. Yeah. So, ultimately, so I'm kind of trying to settle out of court with Coco. I said, we're just going to take it a day at a time. Because Coco also, and I forgot about this. I'll show you on Friday, because by then I will have done 1 or 2 things. I'm thinking I'll have him till we do the show on Friday and probably unload him on the weekend. But I took a ribbon and created a harness. I tied a little loop in the end of it, and we slipped that over his head. Then I took the ends of the ribbon and took them down underneath his wings and tied a bow knot on it.
This is getting more Green Acres by the day.
Oh, it is. It is.
Hey, why don't you bring him to the show?
I tell you what, Dex.
Bring him to the show.
I'll tell you something. I don't know they'll let me in the building with a chicken. I guess I could put him in a kennel and just
Could
walk
be a
him in.
COVID
Put him in a
provision.
cage.
I'm not sure.
What have I got here? Nothing, sir. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. He's the night watchman.
It's his comfort rooster.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. That's all I'm saying. Comfort rooster. What else? But that's a thought. But yeah, so like I said, I would prefer just to let him loose and let him go, because he looks great out in the yard. The grass is all growing green and rice now.
It does.
Well, that's where the dirt is, but you have to see him against that green background. It's just striking, But he's a very pretty bird, and Coco's getting up. The problem is that he didn't grow up with us. Right. That's what I was telling her today. So even though this morning she went out and sat down with him, put him on her lap, and eventually he fell asleep. He fell asleep on her lap. Yeah. But at the same time, then you put him down and, come back in, 30 seconds and he don't know who you are. So my point is.
He has dementia.
Maybe. But the point is, Dexter, him and me ain't never going to be buds. It's just like, I want to be his friend. He doesn't want to be my friend.
How's that chicken poop coming?
That gets into a whole new deal, which I'll give you guys a quick biology lesson, which I learned. Now we're going back 50 years in my biology, actually about 53. But, a chicken, like folks, people, we have a urethra, and you either have a penis or a vagina, and that's where the urine comes out of, and you have an anus, and that's where the feces comes out of, right? All right, a bird has got a cloaca, which is where everything comes out of the same chute. But what I didn't know, and I've discovered this over the weekend, is that they actually urinate and they defecate. I just figured because of what I learned in biology, it was like it all came together at the same time. No. I'll go out there, and there's a little hard, not necessarily hard, but a little turd over here. And then you look over here, and there's like squirt of water with a little white in it. It's the damnedest thing. And I'm finally going, I'll be damned, that bird actually takes a pee. Have you ever thought of a bird taking a pee? I never have, but
Can't say I have.
Huh?
I can't say I have, John.
Yeah, I mean, so I've learned a little bit.
Cloaca.
Yeah, cloaca, I think it is.
Yeah. I'm from the hood. I don't know anything about that.
Well, this biology, I had to explain that to Coco and her friend that she had over to go look at the bird.
Yeah.
But it's been an interesting experience. There was something else I was going to say about it. You asked me what it's like. So Coco says she's going to clean it all up. We'll see. But it's a let's just say it's a fluid situation right now. I hope to have video on Friday that where we're out walking the dog, so to speak. And actually, we did this on Sunday, yesterday, after the game was over. I put the stuff on him, I put a little leash on him, and we walked him. And there's a woman that's on a bicycle that had been down the canal. She's riding by us, and she sees us out there with this
Walking a chicken
on a leash, and that's exactly what she was doing back there. Look at this. This is like these people have lost their minds. But this is not unusual. There are people who have pet chickens.
That's right.
And they claim they can be housebroke. But this guy, it's too late for him.
Or you going to bring the chicken to the show?
Oh, wow. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that.
We'll have the chicken.
I'd consider it.
Bring the chicken and we'll have a chicken
How
dinner.
do I feel about Chick-fil-A instead? Let's I'll bring it. I know you like that Chick-fil-A,
I do.
Dex.
The more I think about it, Dex, I got to give you a hard no on that, and I'll tell you why. Because
Okay,
this
okay.
chicken, what if he starts flying around here and crapping all over and peeing
I ain't going
all
to be
over?
in there.
Then we got
Todd ain't going to appreciate that. But let me say
so
this,
much.
though. Listen to this. I got a box that I put him in out in the garage at night, and he's out there. It's like 5 in the afternoon. He's and he was doing it all morning this morning. And so I put him in the box, and I'm telling you, as soon as he goes in this box, it's a big box, and I cover it, you don't hear a peep out of him. Now, in the morning, he'll tune it back up. But I'll tell you something. I went out there this morning, and I looked. You know what? That guy doesn't poop and pee where he eats. There was no urine in feces in
bird.
there. I was impressed. I didn't know if he would do that, but animals are kind of weird. Like, you know how they say baby birds? You'd think that they're in the nest all that time. They instinctively, they put it over the side. They back up to the edge of the nest and hit the gun.
That's nature.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's pretty fascinating in a lot of ways, kind of.
Do you learn all this stuff in Centralia?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a town, Dexter. One of my best friends, and it wasn't for that reason, but his nickname was Pig. He literally, he's in the middle of town. He was like maybe 50 yards from the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
He had a landrace sow in his back, literally in a farrowing crate in his backyard, and this sow gave birth to maybe a dozen piglets in his backyard. People used to have chickens when I grew up in their backyard. Chicken coops. It wasn't. I think I've told you. My next door neighbor, he had hogs, he had chickens, he had horses and cattle on probably about a 2-acre parcel. He had barbed wire fence around it. No, he had actually cattle wire around it. He had a chicken coop. Me and Squeak went in there when he was like 4 or 5 years old, stole a bunch of eggs, went over and splattered them against the shed my dad had. Squeak, he got off scot-free, but
Where's Squeak today? Where's Squeak today?
He should be in a penitentiary, but he's not. Yeah, Squeak was a natural-born felon. But he has evaded authorities kind of like for a long time. He's legit, but I'm not going to say what Squeak does when the sun goes down. I'm just saying, Dex, keep the doors locked.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up this edition of the John Riggins Show. Everybody stay safe out there. We'll check back in with you Friday as we get set for the Rams ball game.
Yep.
Riggo out.
Riggo is out.